Monday, May 26, 2025, is not just another day in Salem. It's a day that breaks hearts, ignites fury, and exposes truths no one was ready to face. In this episode of Days of Our Lives, everything changes, from the ICU where John Black's life hangs in the balance, to the tension boiling between Sarah and Xander, and finally, to a devastating confrontation with Maggie Horton that could tear a family apart forever. The episode opens with a heavy silence blanketing Salem's hospital. The atmosphere is tense, clinical, and heartbreaking, punctuated only by the soft beeping of machines and the murmured instructions of doctors and nurses. But this isn't just another medical emergency. This is about John Black, the man who's saved so many over the years, now lying broken and unresponsive after one final, selfless act of courage. In the prior episode, John embarked on a perilous mission to help recover a batch of sepsis medication that had been dangerously contaminated. Against all odds, he succeeded. He ensured the medication was stopped before it could cause widespread harm. But that victory came at a steep personal cost. Flames engulfed the scene during the chaos, and John shielded others from the worst of it. Now, we learn just how devastating those injuries truly are. Third-degree burns covering nearly a third of his body and extensive damage to his lungs from smoke inhalation. When Marlena Evans finally reaches his side, her face crumples. John is almost unrecognizable, wrapped in thick white bandages, oxygen tubes running along his face, his body still beneath the weight of so much damage. And yet, through the haze of pain and sedation, he opens his eyes just long enough to lock onto Marlena's. In a moment that will haunt viewers forever, he whispers four final words, soft, raspy, and full of love. "I love you, Doc." And then, silence. His eyes close. His breathing slows. And the monitor's rhythmic beeping becomes the only proof that he's still clinging to life. Medical staff spring into action, stabilizing him as best they can. Marlena stands frozen, clutching his hand as if her touch alone can keep him here. Meanwhile, Dr. Kayla Johnson, a woman who's saved more lives in Salem than she can count, takes charge of John's treatment. There's desperation in her eyes, but also fierce determination. Kayla has faced death before, but this time, she's fighting for someone she considers family. She knows she may be up against impossible odds, but she won't let him go without a fight. As all of this unfolds, Brady Black and Belle Black arrive at the hospital. The weight of the moment hits them hard. Brady, the son who once looked up to John as a pillar of strength, is shaken to his core. Belle, always the daddy's girl, stands in stunned silence before breaking down. Together, they join Marlena at John's bedside, hoping, praying, for a miracle. Each moment that passes feels like an eternity. Will John open his eyes again? Will he return to the family that needs him more than ever? Or, has Salem already witnessed its greatest hero's final sacrifice? As the news of John's condition spreads across Salem, people begin to gather, not just out of concern, but to honor a man whose life has touched them all. No one feels this more deeply than Steve Johnson, John's oldest friend and battle-tested partner. The two have stood shoulder to shoulder through countless missions, betrayals, losses, and victories. And now, Steve faces the reality of possibly losing the one person who always had his back. In a scene brimming with raw emotion, Steve steps away from the hospital room to speak with reporters and concerned friends. His voice, usually cool and controlled, cracks as he addresses the growing crowd. He doesn't sugarcoat the situation. Instead, he offers a truth that everyone in Salem knows deep down: he didn't just save lives. He sacrificed his own. Steve's words strike like lightning. There's no bravado in his tone, just pain, pride, and profound respect. He recalls the bravery John showed during the mission, the fact that he didn't hesitate to put himself in danger if it meant saving others. And while the doctors continue their efforts inside the hospital room, Steve's declaration outside cements John's legacy in the hearts of the community. Meanwhile, another thread of bittersweet irony begins to emerge. Bo Brady, who had been feared lost, is now showing signs of life and recovery. One man comes back from the brink, just as another slips toward it. For those gathered at the hospital, it's a painful reminder that fate gives and takes with no warning. The hospital lobby becomes a silent vigil. Friends, former colleagues, and even rivals stop by to offer prayers, support, or simply stand in solidarity. There's an unspoken understanding: this isn't just about John's survival, it's about what he represents. John Black is the soul of Salem's resistance to darkness, a symbol of love, loyalty, and second chances. And now, Salem holds its breath. Steve, who has rarely been one for public emotion, remains rooted in place, watching the door to John's room, as if waiting for his friend to walk out and crack a joke like he always did. But the night is far from over. And as the sun begins to set outside the hospital's windows, the question that hangs in the air remains: will John survive the night? Or has he already given all he had to give? Sarah buries herself in her hospital work, attempting to keep her mind busy with patient charts and test results, but nothing can drown out the guilt echoing inside her. Each time she hears footsteps in the hallway, her heart skips, worried it's someone coming to tell her the truth is out. Her hands shake slightly when she holds a pen, not because of fatigue, but because of the emotional weight she's trying so hard to carry alone. She told herself it was to protect Xander, to shield him from himself. When she discovered Philip's fragile state, she chose deception over disclosure. She believed, deep in her gut, that if Xander learned the full extent of Philip's betrayal or condition, he might do something reckless, something unforgivable. And now, that very fear might have come true. Philip remains unconscious. The bruises, the internal damage, it all suggests a violent confrontation. And Salem's rumor mill is already spinning, with Xander's name on every tongue. What was once a lie told to protect may now be a lie that backfires, threatening to destroy the last thing Sarah holds dear: her daughter. She's stuck between two impossible choices. If the truth about her deception surfaces in court, it could be used against her in a custody battle. But if she remains silent, if she continues to manipulate the narrative, she becomes the kind of person she swore she'd never be: a mother who chooses control over truth, fear over trust. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Sarah knows that time is running out. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, and everything she's tried to hold together may come crumbling down. If Sarah's guilt is quiet and gnawing, Maggie Horton's grief is loud and volcanic. The moment she confronts Xander Cook Kuriakis, it's not just about Philip. It's about every disappointment, every moment of fear, and every promise she believed Xander had made when he claimed he had changed. The hospital corridor is heavy with tension as Maggie finds him alone. Her voice doesn't rise immediately, it starts low, tight with emotion. But with every word, her restraint unravels. "You nearly killed him," she says, eyes blazing. "Philip may never wake up. Do you understand that, Xander?" Xander tries to defend himself. He says it wasn't what it looked like. That he had reasons. But Maggie doesn't care about reasons anymore. She's heard too many of them. What she sees in front of her isn't the man who swore he'd turn his life around. It's someone who, in her eyes, has let rage win once again. She throws his words back at him. His promises. His tears. She reminds him that he's not just a husband or a nephew anymore, he's a father. "If you didn't care about Sarah, fine. If you didn't care about me, that's your choice. But what about your daughter? When you lashed out, when you lost control, did you think about what this could do to her?" Her voice finally cracks, and in that moment, we see not just anger, but heartbreak. Maggie defended Xander when others doubted him. She gave him a second chance, even a place in her family. But now, her faith feels betrayed. Xander, for once, is speechless. There's nothing he can say that will undo the damage. The guilt begins to rise in him, not just for what happened with Philip, but for what Maggie is now forced to feel: shame, disappointment, and deep, aching loss. As Maggie turns to walk away, she delivers one final blow, not with words, but with silence. No forgiveness, no reassurance, just the sound of her heels echoing down the hallway, leaving Xander alone in the fallout of a life he may have just shattered. By the end of the episode, the damage is clear. John Black lies fighting for every breath. Sarah Horton fights against her own conscience. And Maggie Horton fights to hold the family together while her heart threatens to split in two. Xander stands at a crossroads, his past, his anger, and his love for his daughter all colliding in a single moment of reckoning. And in the background, the walls of Salem Hospital absorb the pain of yet another day marked by heartbreak and betrayal. No one leaves untouched. No one walks away clean. And as the credits roll, the message is unmistakable. Even heroes fall. Even love fractures. And even the strongest families can be torn apart when truth and trust are no longer on the same side. So now we ask you, will John Black wake up, or has Salem already lost one of its greatest heroes? Will Sarah and Xander's separation turn into a full-blown custody war? And has Maggie reached a breaking point that can't be undone? Drop your theories, your heartbreak, and your hopes in the comments below. Because Monday, May 26th, isn't just another episode of Days of Our Lives, it's a turning point. And in Salem, turning points always leave scars.